I'm craving band candy. Like and subscribe. And drop us a line. They say truth is stranger than fiction. But in horror, truth is scarier. Behind every slasher, every haunting, every scream that echoes through the dark, there's a real story. A real person. A real nightmare that someone, somewhere, lived through first. I'm craving band candy. And this is based on a true horror. It begins with a whisper from beyond the screen. A voice through the static, calling from somewhere you can't quite see. In 1982, audiences around the world watched a young girl press her hands against the flickering TV and say these words that would become legend. They're here. Poltergeist wasn't just another haunted house movie. It was a window, one that looked straight into America's living room and showed us the darkness hiding behind the glow of the TV. And behind the story of ghosts and technology lies a haunting that was all too real. Before the tragedies, before the rumors of a curse, Poltergeist was something magical. It was that moment when Steven Spielberg, the master of wonder, joined forces with Tobe Hooper, the master of terror. Together they created a film that looked like a dream, but felt like a nightmare. Spielberg's idea was simple. What if a haunting didn't happen in a crumbling mansion, but in a picture-perfect home? What if evil came not from the shadows, but from the bright suburban glow of the television set? And to bring that nightmare to life, he turned to Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's team of effects wizards. For the first time, Industrial Light and Magic traded spaceships for spirits, creating ghosts made of light, smoke, and electricity. Chairs stacked themselves, doors bent like rubber, and a child's bedroom became a swirling gateway to another world. It was all done with practical effects, matte paintings, and early digital techniques, craftsmanship that made the supernatural look terrifyingly real. At the heart of Poltergeist was its cast, a family that felt real, and a collection of faces that became icons of fear. There, of course, was the clown doll, sitting motionless at the edge of the bed, its grin frozen in place until the moment it wasn't. There was the glowing closet, the film's gateway to another dimension, and of course, the voice from the TV people who lured Carol Ann into the other side. But the soul of the movie belonged to Zelda Rubinstein, the small, soft-spoken clairvoyant who entered the film like an angel of strange mercy. As Tangina Barons, she became the calm eye on the storm of chaos. Her voice, delicate yet commanding, seemed to speak not just to the family, but to the audience. "This house is clean," she said, but the world watching her knew it wasn't. The sequels brought new nightmares, and Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. Audiences met one of horror's most unforgettable villains, Reverend Henry Kane, played by Julian Beck. His gaunt, skeletal figure and unnerving smile gave the film its soul-deep terror. He wasn't a monster. He was a preacher whose holiness had curdled into something unearthly. Julian Beck was dying of cancer during filming, and that frailty made his performance almost too real when he softly sang, "God is in his holy temple." It didn't sound like comfort. It sounded like a threat. Though Poltergeist drew from true stories like the Seaford Poltergeist case in Long Island, many believe another tale was hidden in its DNA, a story written by Richard Matheson called Little Girl Lost. First published in 1953 and adapted for The Twilight Zone in 1962, Matheson's story told of a young girl who vanished into a fourth dimension through her bedroom wall, her parents able to hear her cries, but unable to reach her. Sound familiar? Spielberg and Hooper never confirmed it, But the echoes are unmistakable. A missing child, a dimensional rift, and desperate parents staring into a place where no one should ever look. Poltergeist took that idea and grounded it into suburbia, turning science fiction into supernatural horror. But the film's fictional haunting was rooted in a true story, a case that took place in Seaford, Long Island, New York, in the 1950s. It began when the Hermann family noticed bottles popping open, furniture moving by itself, and a pounding from inside the walls. Police witnessed the events firsthand. Parapsychologists from Duke University studied the case and concluded that the disturbances centered around one of the children, a pattern common in so-called poltergeist phenomena. The haunting eventually faded, but not before inspiring the imagination of a generation, including a young Steven Spielberg. The image of an innocent child tormented by invisible forces became the very foundation of Poltergeist. Once filming began, the nightmare didn't stay on screen. The first tragedy struck just after the movie's release. Dominique Dunn, who played the eldest daughter, Dana, was murdered by her ex-boyfriend in 1982. She was only 22 years old. A few years later, during Poltergeist 2, the deaths continued. Julian Beck, the actor who played the spectral preacher, passed away from cancer. Will Sampson, the Native American actor who performed a cleansing ritual on set, died from surgical complications. And in 1988, the curse of Poltergeist reached its cruelest mark. Heather O'Rourke, the young girl who played Carol Ann, the heart and soul of the series, died suddenly at the age of 12 from septic shock caused by an undiagnosed medical condition. Her death shocked Hollywood. For many, it was proof that Poltergeist was haunted in more ways than one. There was another rumor that refused to die, one buried beneath the flooded pit of the movie's most iconic scene. During the film's climax, actress JoBeth Williams is trapped in a muddy pool surrounded by skeletons. She later learned the horrifying truth. Those weren't plastic props. They were real human skeletons, medical cadavers, used because they were cheaper than replicas. JoBeth Williams claimed when she went home, she felt as if something had followed her. Many say that was the moment the Poltergeist curse was born, when the film blurred the line between the living and the dead for real. So, was it a coincidence? A string of tragedies? Or did something truly linger behind the film? Something restless, bound to the story it helped to tell. Skeptics point to bad luck, but horror fans know you don't disturb the dead without consequence. Because Poltergeist wasn't just a movie about ghosts. It was a movie that dared to use them. And perhaps in doing so, it let something crawl through that television screen, and it never bothered to go back. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones we invent. They're the ones we bring to life, frame by frame, until the line between fiction and reality disappears. Because in the world of Poltergeist, the ghosts don't just haunt the house, they haunt the film itself. Every horror story starts with a question, what if? But the stories we tell here already happened. And sometimes the most terrifying monsters don't crawl out of the shadows. They come from the truth we try to forget. Thank you for joining me for this first installment of Based on a True Horror. I'm Craven Van Candy, and wherever you may be, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good riddance.